Welcome to Be On It. This is Jessica and Debbie, episode 6.
Jessica, what's going on in the Beehive today?
Hey, Debbie. I was just thinking about the importance of communication and listening. Something came up. I was like, do you ever get triggered when you do not feel heard?
Oh, absolutely. Could you be a little more specific about what you're talking about?
For instance, I'm communicating something with my significant other and he's not giving eye contact or he's distracted by other things and
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to have a conversation and he's not really paying that close attention or like he'll cut me off in the middle of me still processing what I'm trying to say. That sort of thing triggers me.
I would certainly be triggered too. I would have something to say about that for sure. Communication is not just of something that you speak. It goes both ways. It's also listening as well.
I do feel like they go hand in hand for sure. And I was trying to talk to him about, something that was coming up. And I said, I think that for us, we're both very busy individuals, that it would be really important to set out a time to communicate because we tend to communicate when we're on the go or
Hmm.
through text, and that just isn't the best way to communicate. So I think we've agreed to do that, and so that's going to help. I think I get triggered from that because I grew up constantly being told to be seen and not heard. And I always felt like I had to fight to get my thoughts out there. And so I think it's really triggering when I feel like my thoughts aren't being listened to. I'm not able to finish talking. Like, why do I get triggered? Why does that make me so mad? I had to really think about it. And I think that when I think back, that's why I've experienced people talking over me before, and and before I've even completed my thoughts, and so now I feel like I tend to talk fast, so I feel heard. Which then people are like, slow down.
Hmm. I mean, I want to say I totally understand where you're coming from. And I feel like I've been guilty of interrupting people too, so that's something to be mindful of. But in the broad terms of communication, communication to me is like the energetic fuel of every relationship because every relationship will involve some sort of communication. That's how we exchange feelings and thoughts and announce things. It's how we exchange. Communication is a way that I express myself and I feel like it's a very therapeutic thing for my personal well-being. It's to not be heard, it doesn't feel good.
I feel the same way. I think because for so long I stuffed my feelings and didn't talk about things and just kind of would do it in my head, I feel like now I want to talk about things. I don't want to stuff it. So I do want to communicate. Maybe on my part, I need to pick times where the other person is in a place where they can listen. What do you do when they're not in that place? Then you have to come up with a solution together to carve out that time. Otherwise, it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you could, in that situation, if you could say or ask, I really want to talk to you about something. Do you have time right now?
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to work on. I kind of check in with people because I don't want to just assume that they're ready to talk about something just because I am. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I've been working on. But with my spouse, I don't tend to do that. I try to catch him where I can because he is so busy and then we have sometimes different days off. And so trying to get some answers to some important questions, he's not present. Something we both have to work on. I know I've personally done the same thing. I catch myself interrupting people when they're still talking. In my mind, I heard what they've had to say. I'm now trying to respond before I've like let them stop talking. And it's just something that I've noticed about myself that I really want to work on, and I don't know why I do that. I don't know if I speed think in my head and come to the conclusion and then I'm ready to respond. It's something I have to pause, really listen, really be present, not be distracted by outside noises, and really listen to that person and then respond.
Yeah, because often we are multitasking when we're listening to somebody. We're maybe listening, but not fully being present. and then we're trying to do something else. How can we validate that person if we're, not even really sitting there with them with direct eye contact and just taking in what they have to say?
It doesn't show a lot of empathy or validation on my part. If they're sharing this beautiful story and like my mind is wandering off, it doesn't feel very good for that other person receiving that.
Absolutely not.
That's never my intent. I never want somebody to feel like they're not validated with their shared story, or, that I'm not empathetic, because I think I'm a very empathetic person. And it's just something I'm really working on to make sure that, you know, I make sure that they're finished with their thoughts and I let it lie there so that they feel validated. And then I proceed to talk.
Hmm. Do you feel if you had some designated time that both of you could be fully present to have conversation then?
I really do. And it's something that we're really working on. I think that things come up in everyday life, right? And you just want to get a quick answer because I think we're that instant gratification society. Sometimes you got to read the room and it's just not appropriate. And I do know that, but I also know that it's hard to catch my husband because he's always
Yeah.
busy. It's something he also needs to work on. I like to call it out so we can both work on it so that we can
Mhm.
be better and, it just makes your marriage stronger.
I think that having good communication skills helps a marriage, helps any relationship. And when I consider communication, I think each person has to kind of consider their how they were brought up, their personality, and their communication style to do like a really good assessment on where they stand now and areas that they can improve upon with regard to communication.
I agree. Another thing that came up was I'll be listening to somebody's shared story and I'll get
Hmm.
excited because I might have a similar story and I'll be like, oh my gosh, me too. Well, not everybody is receptive to that because it might feel invalidating and like you're not showing empathy. But for me, I see it as a connection and a way to connect. And I do that with close friends because I see it as a way of connecting. But on
Hmm.
occasion, I have done it with people I don't know that well. And I leave wondering, oh my goodness, did I just make them not feel validated? Or, was I showing enough empathy? Did I come off as trying to one up them and being rude? Which is never my intent. So it's
Hmm.
something I'm trying to work on. I do wonder, is this a generational thing? Do we share stories with others because of the generation that we came from where we stuffed our feelings and we didn't communicate that great? Do we share stories to be relatable?
That's a good question and something I really haven't thought about. I feel like when we share stories, we're trying to communicate something that happened to us. It could be excitable, it could be sad, it could be a story about something that was fearful to us. So it's, when I tell a story, I'm trying to get it out of my body, and it's a way of me sharing, but it's also a way of me getting things out of my head. And in doing so, you're gonna invite people to share their stories too, in a way. So I don't see a real problem with that, but I do feel like you kind of have to read the room and wait for that person to finish their story, and then you can share yours. Maybe that's a certain way to go about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's times where maybe they had more to say, but then I
Hmm.
started in with my story. It's just something I've been thinking about. I definitely need to work on, and it's a flaw that I have. I think it comes from being excited to talk to that individual and connect with them. I think that there's other people that feel that way too. And especially with Generation X being kind of that generation that was basically told to be seen and not heard and go outside and play, had to be self-sufficient. We had to learn how to make friends. It just makes me wonder, do other generations think a little differently?
Hmm. Yeah, that'd be something to explore. I feel like personally, I'm kind of an introverted person for the most part, but then I can also be more extroverted when I have one-to-one conversations. So when I think about my communication style, I need to acknowledge that when I share a story, it's going to take a while to even get the full story out. So just being aware of that is something to keep in mind. And when a person is a slow processor like I am, I'm not going to fully expect to finish my full on story before somebody else, chimes in and shares something of themselves. It's just kind of, for me, it's just an ongoing exchange, because things will come up in the conversation that I will think about in 10 minutes. I just don't divulge everything in one fail swoop. So I know that it's going to be an ongoing exchange of information. I also realized that in order for me to be a better communicator, I need to do a lot of introspection before I speak to other people, because I have to organize myself better so that I can come to terms with my feelings about a lot of different things before I speak. I've learned that I really need to journal every day. And that's me having an internal conversation with myself so that I can be a better communicator.
That's really good, Debbie. And it's funny because I used to journal and I thought I don't like this, but now I'm thinking that journaling I've been journaling a lot more, and I do think you're right. I think to get that out is cathartic. I think that, getting it on paper and like reflecting back is healing in some way. Like, or just getting your thoughts onto paper, you can look back at it and see how much you've grown. And so it's something that I've been starting to do more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting because it just also makes me wonder, is this a woman thing versus a man thing? Because their communication is short and sweet, and women tend to, we process a little bit longer. We feel all our feelings internally, but not always externally. And we want to get our feelings out in the moment so we feel better. So I don't know, what does communication look like for men versus what does communication look like for women? For women, we like to talk about things, especially with our close friends. It's a little different if, you're introverted and you're a little shyer. But when you meet that one friend that you're not introverted with, you just are
Mm-hmm.
so excited that you just want to
Mm-hmm.
get it all out.
For sure. I can totally relate that to that too. This communication thing is humongous. We communicate all day long, every single day of our life. I mean, babies communicate in their own way. So I think that there is a difference between how men and women communicate. That's for sure. It's just such an individual thing to really understand communication. We really just have to look at ourselves first, because that's where the work is going to begin. And then I'm not saying that every person needs to look at their communication style and assess it and then change it. It's just being aware, and just understanding yourself better.
That's a good point. I also think that being empathetic that somebody's communication style might not look like yours, and being empathetic that they're trying
Mm-hmm.
to express themselves in the best way they personally know how.
Right.
And so, just giving them that time and
Mm-hmm.
patience, and know that we're not all perfect and we might communicate in a way that might rub somebody the wrong way, but maybe that's not how they were intending to come across. For me, personally, I think these words in my head and I have these thoughts in my head, it comes out jumbled. And
Mm-hmm.
it's partly nerves because I'm also kind of shy and I'm get anxiety when I'm getting to know somebody. And so I panic a little bit. But when
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable with somebody, the thoughts are clear. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just giving people space and time to think before they speak, because we are in that society where you have to get in, you have to talk, especially in a
Yeah.
work-like setting. We're being asked in healthcare, what do you think? Not often are you asked what's your individual point of view. It's what, as a group, what do you think? And
Mm-hmm.
our society is kind of like as a collective. So you're right. Introspection on your own way of communicating and working on that is so important.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because you're right. I mean, everybody's communication style is so different, so that I totally agree. You have to allow that person time and the space to respond. You may not get a response that in a timely manner with certain people, so you need to allow for that to happen organically, or it's just going to be a forced thing, and you won't really get that person's authentic self in a conversation. I will say this, that generally speaking, I do think that having a communication pattern is good. For instance, when you're having a conversation with somebody, you definitely want to be a listener as well as a speaker. So the listening skills need to be on point. And if that's the case, then you're going to be validating people's statements, their experiences, and then you'll also ask really good clarifying questions. So I feel like those three things for me, like listening, clarifying, and validating, are things that I really want to incorporate as I kind of progress and get better at communicating with other people.
That's good. I think that you're right. It's different for everybody, and every generation is going to perceive it differently. If you guys loved what we were talking about today, I think you should tune in for episode 7 when we talk about Generation X versus other generations and assumptions we make. Be an interesting topic to talk about. Thank you for tuning in with us on Beyond It today.
Join us next time.
We are all about community. Join our community by following and subscribing to Be On It through YouTube, Instagram, and of course your podcasting platform, so we can continue to bring Be On It to you. Just so you know, this is for entertainment purposes only. We are speaking from our lived experiences and are not licensed therapists.